Please proceed.
Okay. Good evening, Manandas. I am Kirtana, research scholar in Thrice College. It's a great privilege to welcome you of Thrice College and St. Aloysius College, the one-day international webinar on how to improve acceptance rate and publish in high-quality journals. I'm so glad being part of the session that we are conducting today, especially in the Teachers' Day occasion, and I'm wishing everyone out here warm greetings for Teachers' Day. Now I welcome Ms. Swati Sudhir to do the prayer.
Recording in progress.
നന്മയാകുന്ന കാന്തി കാണുവാൻ കണ്ണിനാകേണമേ നല്ല വാക്കിൻ്റെ ശീലു ചൊല്ലുവാൻ നാവിനാകേണമേ സ്നേഹമാകുന്ന ഗീതമോ എന്റെ കാതിനിണയാകണേ സത്യമെന്നുള്ള ശീലമോടെ ഞാൻ ശാന്തി അറിയണമേ ഭൂമി അമ്മയെന്നറിയുവാനുള്ള ബോധമുണ്ടാകണേ ജീവജാലങ്ങളാകെയും ജന്മബന്ധുവായിടണേ ജാതിഭേദങ്ങളെന്ന ശാപമാ ദൂരെ മറയണമേ ലോകമുന്നെന്ന പാഠമെന്നുമെൻ മനസ്സിലെഴുതേണമേ
Thank you, Swati. Next, I would like to invite Ms. Arundhati PS to deliver the welcome address.
A very pleasant day to one and all. Most respected dignitaries of today, it's my privilege to address the welcome last for the international webinar titled How to Improve Acceptance Rate and Publish in High Quality Journals, organized by the Research and PhD Department of Commerce, Thrice College, Irinjalakuda, and Department of Commerce, St. College, Elthuruth. It is my honor to welcome the resource person of the day, Professor Dr. Dewasiri and Jayantha, Department of Accountancy and Finance, Faculty of Management Studies, Sabaragamuwa University, Lanka. Welcome, sir. Next, I welcome to the session the principals of the host institution, Reverend Dr. Jolie Ansi, CMI, Principal, Thrice College, Irinjalakuda, and Dr. Chaku Joshi, Principal, St. Aloysius College, Thrissur. Welcome both of you. I take this opportunity to welcome Dr. Joshina Rose, HOD of Commerce Department, Thrice College, Irinjalakuda, and Ms. Rejada A.B., HOD of Commerce, St. Aloysius College, Elthuruth, to the session. With much delight, I invite the program convener, Dr. Arun Balakrishnan and Dr. Vivian K.D., joint program convener to the program. Hearty welcome both of you. I would like to extend warmest welcome to the organization committee and participants of today's session. Hoping you to have a very fruitful session today. Thank you.
Thank you, Arundhati. Thank you so much. Next, I would like to welcome Dr. Chaku Joshi, Principal of St. Aloysius College, delivering the presidential address.
Thank you. Principal of Christ College, Reverend Dr. Jolly Andrews, the Chief Speaker of the day, Professor Dewasiri, Professor Lipson, Dr. Lipson, Head of the Department of Commerce of Christ College, and my dear friends. I'm extremely delighted to see that the two departments of Christ College and St. Aloysius College coming together to offer a webinar on a very important and relevant topic, how to improve acceptability rate and publication in high impact factor journals or high quality journals. This is an area where which can be considered as a gray area, because many people try to publish in journals, but they get a rejection letter very fast. The basic reason is quite often not about the quality of the article, but it is about the format of presentation. So it will be very useful if information is given to scholars, budding scholars. What are the things to be taken care of when we send a paper for publication into a high impact fact journal? I remember some of my research scholars who said their paper was rejected right away by the journal, and they felt that the journal did not even look into the paper. But later we realized that the journal just looked at the format and found that it is not in tune with them. And since it's a journal that gets many papers, they are looking for opportunities to reject paper rather than accept paper. So if we give a chance by making a mistake from our part, if we want even a typographical mistake from our part, they will immediately reject the paper. From this simple technique, there are many other important techniques and factors that we should look into. So I'm confident that this seminar will shed light on such an area, because we have a very experienced resource person who is also associated with Emerald Publishing. So I'm sure this session will benefit our research scholars and all other participants. So I congratulate the departments of Christ College and St. Aloysius College for taking the initiative for organizing this conference. I wish all the very best. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your words. As you all know, today is 5th of September, Teachers' Day, and I would like to invite Ms. Malavika, second M.Com student of Christ College, to say a few words about it.
Audible?
Yeah, you are audible.
I'm Malavika. Good evening, everyone. I invite.
Malavika, can you please switch on your video?
Can you see now?
Oh.
I think there's some problem.
Okay, carry on.
Is it audible now?
Yeah.
Can I start now?
Yeah.
Okay. My name is Malavika and I'm from Christ College, second M.Com student. I'm here to give some greetings on the occasion of Teachers' Day. We know that teacher is like a candle who burns himself and provides us light. There is no doubt that teaching is a great profession that deserves the same amount of love and respect as any other. It is observed every year on September 5 to commemorate Dr. S. Radhakrishnan's birth anniversary. He was a former Indian president, academic, philosopher, and winner of the Bharat Ratna. Teachers' Day serves as a reminder on the important role that teachers play in nation building by leading and teaching our country's greatest brains. As the old saying goes, a country's future is in the hands of its children and teachers, as mentors may transfer pupils into future leaders who influence India's destiny. They play a vital role in our lives by assisting in achieving success in our careers and businesses. They assist us in becoming better people, better members of society, and better citizens of our nature. Without the infallible counsel of our gurus, society will implode in no time. So Teachers' Day not only honors Dr. S. Radhakrishnan's legacy, but also recognizes all the teachers who devote their lives to guiding young people to their feet. So becoming a teacher is not an easy task. They have to be patient. They have to solve their students' problems for a better future. So they teach their students about the importance of time, how to manage and achieve something in their life. They teach us as to respect our elders, parents, and how to treat the other people around us. The future and present of children totally depend on the education that they get from their teachers. And it is only then who sometimes becomes our best friends and help us to remove the mess which is created by us somewhere in our life. So we know that teachers give us moral support and encourage us to live a quality life in the society. They have the power to let the students understand the aspects of career growth and future prospects in the desired fields. And they help the student to shape their character and make their future bright. They enable us to stand strong in this world by building us from within, by making us sensible and knowledgeable, so that we become capable of dealing with numerous challenges coming in our life and helping us to succeed. So as a conclusion, I would ask you all to always cherish the bond with your teachers. They are the ones who have been educated you and put in their efforts to bring up in the highest in the society. So we owe our respect and gratitude towards our teachers, and they've empowered us with our education. They have nurtured us with our affection, and just like our parents. So our respect makes them feel contented. They build the new blood to be worthy in this nation. Nothing can equal what our teachers have done for us. So, but we can try in whatever small way as we can. Happy Teachers Day, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Malvika. Thank you so much. Next, we are going to comment session by Dr. Dewasiri and Jayantha. Before that, I would like to ask Shruti to introduce the speaker to all our joy.
Okay, I'm audible.
Yes.
Good afternoon, all. It's a great pleasure for me to introduce our speaker today, who is going to talk to us about how to improve acceptance rates and publish in high-quality journals. This is a subject in which we should be all deeply interested, because it's by avoiding the publishing mistakes that we can best ensure our articles publish in high-quality journals. Our speaker, South Asian Ambassador of Emerald Publishing and well-known researcher who has published in high-ranked journals such as Managerial Finance, Qualitative Research, Financial Market, International Journal of Qualitative Methods, etc. He has been awarded several times for his outstanding research performance. He is a pioneer in applying triangulation research approaches in the management discipline. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Dr. Dewasiri and Jayantha, Professor of the Department of Accountancy and Finance, Faculty of Management Studies, Sabaragamuwa, University of Sri Lanka. Once again, welcome, sir, to the international webinar.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Shruti. Thank you, Shruti, for your wonderful introduction. So, shall I start now?
Yes, sir, you can start. Yes, sir, you can start.
You can mute yourself. Yes. So, I'll share the PPT first. I hope everyone can see the screen now.
Yes, sir, perfect.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Principal of Chris College, Reverend Dr. Jolly Andrews, Principal of St. Aloysius College, Dr. Chako Jose, Head of Department of Commerce, Chris College, Dr. Josina Jose, Head of the Department of Commerce and Aloysius College Conveners, Dr. Arun Balakrishnan and my friend Dr. Libison, along with joint program coordinators, Mr. Aslam and Ms. Arundhati, and distinguished participants. So I take it as a great pleasure and honor to deliver this speech and St. Aloysius College on this auspicious occasion. As I aware, so as you already highlighted, Teachers' Day is celebrated on today. So the date is chosen as it marks the birth anniversary of Dr. Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan, the first Vice President of India, and India's second president. So I'm happy that you have taken a memorable day, which is important for both teachers and its students in conducting this special program. So I appreciate the commendable effort made by the organizing committee. Today, we are going to discuss on a timely important topic, that is on how to improve the article acceptance rate and publish in high quality journals. So as stated by our principal, so this is a gray area for everyone. So we are going to shed some lights on is there a winning formula for a top tier publication? So what should we do in order to have a top tier publication? We will discuss in and out with regard to this topic today. So as I highlighted in this session, I'm going to discuss about a winning formula for a top tier publication, emphasizing on what to focus, how to differentiate, and highlighting the tips for the article structure along with the cover letter. So there, I have to highlight that there is no magic and luck in scientific publications. So all of your hard work would pave the way towards top tier publication in our academic life. So as an experienced author and editor, I would like to discuss on a winning strategy now. So for a top tier publication, while achieving sustainable competitive advantages among the peer submissions. So we have to have some kind of understanding on how to have a competitive advantage among thousands of peer submissions in journals. So that, assume that you are working in the industry and you need to achieve a competitive advantage. I'm asking a question. What sort of strategies we can use in order to achieve a competitive advantage? What sort of strategies we can use in the industry? So if I ask this question, so management students may come up with the answers highlighting that, sir, we can use the Porter's generic strategies such as differentiation and focus. So in addition to that, I would like to highlight here, so the same set of strategies we can use in scientific publications as well. So in addition to that, we can use blue ocean strategies through continuous innovation and also white ocean strategies through competitive collaborations. Similarly, here in this session, I argue that we can use the same strategies in publishing in a top tier journal. So here we are now. So as you can see on the Venn diagram, as is stated on the desktop, so the strategy here is to enhance the focus and differentiation to increase the intersection that is representing the decisive competitive advantage. So here what I'm highlighting is in your manuscript, in your study also, what you have to do that represent the decisive competitive advantage. So here, in order to have more and more the intersection, what you have to do is you have to enhance the differentiation while increasing the focus. So when you apply these two strategies together, what will happen is the decisive competitive advantages, so that will be enhanced compared to the peer submissions. So these decisive competitive advantages, so that will lead to top tier publications while achieving a sustainable novelty or originality towards your study. So this is the formula I can highlight today. So in order to have a top tier publication, so this is the formula you have to do is increase the differentiation and focus in order to increase the intersection that represent the decisive competitive advantages. So here I would like to explain ways and means of using each strategy in publishing in a top tier journal. So how to use differentiation and focus in a scientific publication? That is a question we do have. That is a gray area as highlighted by the principal. So what we have to do, we have to increase the differentiation, increase the focus. How to increase the focus? That is the common problem we do have right now. So we are going to answer that question now. So what to focus? That is a question we do have in our mind. So first, I would like to highlight that it is required to focus on a suitable journal when writing the manuscript. At the first step, at the first phase, what you have to do? You have to select the suitable journal. Why am I stating that first thing is to select the suitable journal? Why? Is there any specific reason? Yes, there is a specific reason. The reason is that there are specific and unique guidelines for each journal, so that the authors need to focus on one particular journal in order to reduce the time required for a revision in a later stage. So assume that you have done your manuscript writing, you have done the writing part of your manuscript without focusing on a suitable journal. What will happen? So you will have to spend a valuable time in developing that manuscript again in accordance with the submission guidelines of that candidate journal. So in order to minimize that, at the first phase, what you have to do is you have to focus on the right journal. Focus on the right journal. So you will ask, sir, how to find the right journal? So that is also a question. That is also a question. What you can do here, there are different databases where we can find the suitable journal. Journal finder, write it down, journal finder. So that is operated by databases, I mean, publishing agencies. So through journal finder, you can find the most suitable journal by mentioning your the article title, manuscript title. So through manuscript title, so they will take some keywords and find out the appropriate journal for your manuscript. So the journal finder, that is a digital tool that helps you to find journals that could be best suited for publishing in your scientific article. So journal finder, that is one of the best method. In addition to that, what you can do is you can go through the reference list and see what are the journals publish this kind of a study. So if you are, assume that if your article is written on let's say dividend policy in finance, so what we can do is we can see what are the journals focus on dividend policy, so we can target that journals as well. In addition to that, so we know that most of the journals, they highlight that we are an index body of Scopus, ABDC, ABS, and so on, so that you can check whether these journals are really indexed. So there are some predatory fake clone journals across the world. So so you have to be aware about those things as well. So in addition to that, I would like to highlight that you have to focus on the aims and scope of the journal as well. Aims and scope, so that will provide you a clear guideline, clear guidance on what is our aim, what is our focus, what is our scope. So through that, you can see whether your article is in line with the aims and scope. In addition to that, you can consider about the factors like impact factor and the published articles by the outlet when selecting the best journal for your manuscript. So in addition to the scope, aims and scope, impact factor, that is a well-known phenomena, not only in the South Asian region, but also other parts of the world. So impact factor, that is calculated by taking the average annual number of citations per article published by a journal. So here, I would like to highlight this. So here, site score, that is basically provided by the Scopus, whereas impact factor, that is provided by the Web of Science. So there are different, there is the different terminologies they are using in formulating this impact factor or site score. Site score, that is given by the Scopus, whereas impact factor, that is provided by the Web of Science. If you consider about the site score here, if you need to calculate the site score in 2019, what we have to do basically, what we have to do, we have to divide the number of citations received in 2016 to 2019 period for the documents published during that period by the number of documents published in 2016-2019 period. So what you have to do in order to calculate the site score, we have to have the documents which is published during the course of 4 years time. Then we have to divide the number of citations received for that 4 years by the number of articles published during that 4-year period. So site score is calculated like this. For an example, let's take one example, South Asian Journal of Marketing. Assume that they have received 100 citations during 2016 and 2019 period, 100 citations. And during 2016 and 2019 period, South Asian Journal of Marketing, they basically publish 40 articles for this period, 40 articles for 4 years, meaning that average is around 10 articles for a year, 10 articles per year, and 40 articles were published during the 2016-2019 period. And they have received 100 citations for those documents during the 2016-19 period. In order to calculate the site score, what we have to do is we have to divide this number of total citations, that is 100, divided by number of articles published in that period, that is 20. 100 divided by 40, number of articles, that is 40, 100 divided by 40. So that will provide 2.5 site score for the South Asian Journal of Marketing journal. So that is easily calculated. That can be easily calculated. So impact factor, if you consider about the impact factor, that is calculated in a different manner actually. So if you consider about impact factor, here what Web of Science is doing is they are taking number of citations received in 2019 for all items published in 2017 and 18 period. So here they are taking all the citations received in 2019 for the documents published in 2017 and 18 period. You have to divide it by number of articles and reviews published in this year, these 2 years, 2017 and 18. Here what they're doing is they have to take total number of citations received in 2019 for the previous 2 years, for the journal articles published in previous 2 years. So total number of, assume that South Asian Journal of Marketing, they do have for 2017 and 18, they do have 50 citations received in 2019. 50 citations received in 2019 for the articles published in 2017 and 18. So you have to divide that 50 by number of articles published during these 2 years, 2017 and 18. So assume that is 20. Then again, that is 20. During 2017 and 18, South Asian Journal of Marketing published 20 research articles. So meaning that you have received 50 citations for the 20 articles. So what you have to do? You have to divide 50 by 20 in order to calculate the impact factor. That is again 2.5. So that is how impact factor is basically calculated. So I know that most of the researchers, they are talking about the impact factor, but they do not know how to calculate it. So in order to have that understanding only, I emphasize these 2 things. So we have so far discussed about journal finder. So in order to find a suitable journal for your manuscript, then aims and scope, you have to focus on the aims and scope. Then I have highlighted on impact factor or site score. So in addition to that, top tier publishing outlets, if you consider about that, they do have high impact factor or site scores so that your decision could be straightforward. In addition to that, the authors should focus on the indexing of the journals when selecting the best outlet, as I stated earlier. For an example, it is advised to focus on indexing and abstracting, such as Scopus, ABDC, Web of Science, ABS, when picking the appropriate journal for your manuscript. So that is how you can identify a top tier journal out of thousands of journals available in your discipline. You know that there are predatory clone fake journals. So in order to get rid of that, so identification of the appropriate journal, that is essential at the first place before writing the manuscript. In addition to that, as I stated earlier, you can look at your preferences as well. So this will help you narrow your choices. That will help you to identify more suitable journal for your study. In addition to that, you have to review the recent publications in each candidate journal. So here you have to find out the hot topics. So what are the hot topics being discussed, the accepted types of articles, and so on. What sort of articles they publish, whether it is systematic literature reviews, whether it is literature reviews, whether it is empirical research papers. So journal interest is, different. It is always changing. Journal interest, that is rapidly changing. If you consider about 2 years back situation, that is different from today's environment. 2 years back, so the focus was different. Nowadays, the focus is different. That's why we need to find out what sort of hot topics they do have, what sort of articles they are focusing on. So we have to think about that as well. In addition to that, here I would like to highlight one important thing, so which I have highlighted in so many occasions when I was conducting keynote speeches in the South Asian region. So here you have to basically think about, focus about manuscript quality than the number of articles published in a year. That is really essential. In South Asian context, we can see that most of the researchers, they tend to publish 10 to 12 articles, poor quality articles. So what we have to do is, as responsible academics, so it is better to have 2 to 3 maximum good quality articles instead of 10 to 12 or 10 to 20 fake predatory or clone journals, clone articles. So we can see this trend in the South Asian context. Most of the researchers, they tend to have the number of articles on board rather than the quality. Maintain quality, that is essential. That will not harm your academic dignity. But when you focus on the quantity, so that will harm the quality and also the academic dignity in the long run. So in addition to that, it is required to focus on the manuscript as well. So you have to focus on the manuscript. So when we focus about the manuscript, what you have to do is you have to see whether the manuscript follow a scientific approach instead of a nonsense approach. So each and every piece of work we do, that should follow a scientific approach. That's why we call it as research. That is a scientific investigation to a problem at our hand. So in order to solve that problem, what we have to do, we have to apply a scientific approach rather than a nonsense approach. We can see that most of the submissions in good quality journals, so that do not proceed with proper methodological applications. That is one of the pitfalls I see when reviewing and when editing the articles. As an editor also, I see that trend in the South Asian region. So editors here see whether the manuscript focus on recent and contextual literature in order to differentiate it from the studies in the same phenomenon. So you have to determine that always editors, they think about the differentiation. They think about how your study is different from other studies conducted in the same phenomenon and same context. So you have to think about that. You have to differentiate yourself. Within the focus strategy, you have to differentiate. In addition to that, as authors, you have to recheck whether the manuscript follows submission guidelines. So this is the first instance where the desk rejections are happened. So when you do not follow the submission guidelines, so most of the time we as editors, what we do is we unsubmit a paper or we proceed with a rejection. So in order to get rid of that, what we have to do, we have to follow the submission guidelines at the first phase. So that's why I told you that. So identification of right candidate journal, right journal at the first phase, that is essential than anything else, right in the paper. That is essential. So in addition to that, as authors, you have to check whether the manuscript have a clear focus, emphasizing its originality and implications to the practice of society. Think about that. Whether there are some implications to the practice and society, identify its specific implications. So then that will create the novelty, that will create the originality. If all the answers are yes, you can submit your article to the top tier journal. Otherwise, you have to revise the paper again. So in addition to that, you have to focus on the right audience as well. Focusing on right audience, that is really essential. So as authors, we do have different set of audiences. First one is that our readers, they are our customers. They are the people who cite us. First, you have to verify their interest in your study. If you take the stated topic here, dividend policy determinants of Sri Lankan firms, a triangulation approach. Here, when you look at the topic itself, so you know that dividend policy, that is a highly investigated topic in the finance discipline. But the triangulation as a novel approach provide an interest for the audience. So that will pick the, interest of the audience. What do you mean by triangulation? Should I read it? Is it a novel thing? So you have to find it out. So in addition to that, you have to determine the range of audience, whether it is local or international. So you have to determine what sort of audience I'm going to sell my product. My product is my manuscript or research paper. So what sort of audience? What sort of audience are they? So if you consider the stated topic, we can identify that focus audience is the emerging and developing market in the second one. Here, determinants of dividend policy evidence from an emerging and developing market. So audience, we have clearly focused on the audience in the title itself. You can see that. These two research papers are developed for two studies which I conducted, determine the factors affecting dividend policy. So that is a well-researched area. Both articles are published in well-known reputed journal, that is Managerial Finance. So these are the two papers. So first, in order to of the audience triangulation approach, by looking at the triangulation, editors will think, what do you mean by triangulation? Is it a novel approach? So first impression will be lasted for long. So we have to have the editor's interest at the first phase. So the second, we focus on the audience, right audience. So evidence from emerging and development that, so audience, readers, they are interested in this. So in addition to that, so I highlight few areas to be focused when we apply focus strategy. You can see there is the sound, so I request everyone to mute yourself, please. So next, I would like to emphasize more on what not to focus. So we discussed about the focus strategy. So I stated that you have to focus on the manuscript, you have to focus on the audience. In addition to that, you have to focus on the right journal. So I discussed three things during the first, 30 minutes time, 30 minutes time. So now I'm going to highlight a few points on what not to focus. So researchers should not focus on predatory fake or clone journals that harm their academic integrity and reputation. So the researchers choose such predatory journals or fake journals due to lack of knowledge and quick publications. These predatory and clone journals that provide you a quick publication by paying a fee, you can proceed with the publication even without a peer review process. So here I would like to suggest or recommend a 3-step simple plan for the researchers in order to steer clear of predatory journals that involve doing your homework. That is in order to ensure the journal publisher's credibility. So what are the 3 steps we can follow in order to get rid of the fake or predatory or clone journals? First, what you have to do is you have to check whether the journal or publisher is listed in Bayes list. If so, researchers can avoid the same. So there are some, criticisms over the Bayes list. It's stating that Bayes list that is not a credible source. It's stating that there are some scholars on Bayes. There are 2 school of thoughts with regard to the Bayes list. One says, one set of scholars, they says that we cannot accept Bayes list. One set of scholars, they said that so we can still rely on the Bayes list. So my opinion is I'm in the middle. So you can check from the Bayes list, and also you can follow other 2 stages in order to steer clear the predatory fake or clone journals. So the second step, you have to check whether the journal is a member of Directory of Open Access Journals, DOAJ. So if it is stating that that is an open access journal, what you have to do, you have to check whether that is listed in the Directory of Open Access Journal, that is DOAJ. In addition to that, COPE, COPE, so that is publication of ethics, that is for the publication ethics, COPE. In addition to that, OASPA, OSTM, you have to check whether the journal is listed in these databases. If the journal claim open access, they should be listed on such databases. And if not, you can avoid it. In addition to that, if the journal has claimed that it is indexed, what you have to do? You have to check with such original indexing databases in order to check whether it is indexed or not. You can check it from Scopus, ABDC, Web of Science, ABC, Procast, and so on. So you have to check from the original databases in order to see whether the journal is indexed in such databases as they claim. Anyone can claim that. So we are indexing Scopus and ABDC, but you do not rely on that. You have to check it from the original databases. When you are checking, you will realize that sometimes it was a journal index in Scopus, but later they discontinued due to malpractices they applied during the publication process. So by following here, in addition to the ABDC, Scopus, Web of Science, ABS, Procast, EBSCOS, or any other database, the third step I highlighted on 3 steps. The third step, what you can do is you can check whether the journal is following ethical practices, including good governance. Here you have to check the journal contact information. So you have to check whether journal contact information is correct. So if it is a reputed journal, they should not use, Gmail, Yahoo email addresses. Check about that. And also research and editorial board, check about them. So check whether these people are eminent researchers in the field, respected researchers in the field. So write to them, asking how to submit, asking, I'm thinking about publishing my research in this journal. So please guide on me. So you can write. So you can, clear if you have any concern over the journal. And in addition to that, in addition to the editorial board, what you have to do is you have to take a look at the peer review process and also the publication timelines. But here, I would like to highlight that peer review process, think about that, and also the publication timelines. So when the article is published, and also what is the turnaround period for an article. If it is, if it is stating that we will give you the notification within 7 days, so what you have to do is you have to skip that journal, meaning that that is a predatory journal focusing on money, rather originality and scientific quality. So in addition to that, you have to read through the past issues of the journal while checking the APC chart. So if there is a APC chart, so I would like to highlight that the APC, that is article processing chart, that should be separated from the editorial process. That is essential. So in most of predatory, clone or fake journals, we can see that these APC is handled by the editor-in-chief himself. So if the editor is in chief, if he is following up the payment, so there is a conflict of interest. So there should be a separate journal manager in order to follow up the APC. So that is not the editor-in-chief's job. So if the editor-in-chief himself following up, that is a sign of a predatory or fake or clone journal. So they are not following corporate governance or publication ethics. They do not have such. So by following this process, 3-step simple process, you can avoid the predatory journals. The decision to submit should be based on extensive discussions with your co-authors, your colleagues, peers, and experts of the field. Here, I would like to highlight few. Share some experiences that I gained being the editor-in-chief of the South Asian Journal of Marketing. So we established this journal last year. So this is a platinum open access journal published by Emerald Publishing in association with Sabaragamuwa University, my university, and also the Sri Lanka Institute of Marketing. So here I would like to highlight that basically 10% of the submissions are out of scope. So if you consider 100 submissions, 20 are out of scope. So meaning that we proceed with this rejections for the same. In addition to that, 20% of the submissions do not follow the submission guidelines when they initially submit the articles. So for this 20%, what we do is basically, we again ask them to revise the article as per the submission guidelines and resubmit it. Either we reject it or unsubmit it. So in addition to that, if you consider the reviewing process, when a paper is sent for revision, we can see inadequate responses to the reviewers. Sometimes it takes time to figure out what changes you have done and where it is. So it is really difficult to find out what changes you have done and where are the changes. So there is no author response letter to the reviewer. So please be specific. Write a letter to separate letter to reviewers, separate letter to 2 reviewers or 3 reviewers, and highlight what are the changes. Highlight, specifically mention the comment. Under the comment, you have to highlight in order to address the comment what you have done. Then state where are the changes. So here, for an example, if a reviewer state that, if you are using, a dichotomous scale variable as the dependent variable, meaning that binary variable is selected as the dependent variable that has two choices, that is dichotomous scale or binary variable. So you have used logic regression. So reviewer is asking, why did you use logic regression instead of probit? So you can use both. Why did you use? What is the rationale? So what you have to do here? So we have used logic regression because it is superior. Whatever the reason, you have to mention the reason. So the audience, they can easily understand logic than other model. Likewise, you should provide a justification and state where is the change. So please see page number 10 under methodology, line number 7, first paragraph. Be specific on the response. So we can see that when we send a paper for revision, we can see inadequate responses to the reviewer comment. Sometimes editors and reviewers, they need to have time, specific, have additional time in order to figure out what changes are done and where it is. So in addition to that, 10% of the authors resubmit the papers without a revision or a site revision, stating that they have addressed all the comments. So here I would like to emphasize that you have to fully adhere to the submission guidelines of the journal. That is really essential. Go through the submission guidelines and adhere to the submission guideline. For an example, if you consider about South Asian Journal of Marketing, so submission guidelines, it say, so the maximum word count allowed is 7,000. So don't go for 7,001. The reason is that that additional one word has an additional cost. It should be bared either by the institution or the publisher. So don't proceed with 7,001. Why? Can't you write it in 7,000 words? It is easy. Even you can, do a 3-minute presentation on your PhD. That is a 80,000 word PhD. So if you can do a 3-minute presentation on your PhD, why can't you, bring down your word count to 7,000? That is possible. Think about that. So similarly, here you have to fully align with the guidelines at the first submission itself. It will basically reduce the effort and time of the reviewers and editors. So in order to win editors and reviewers' heart, what you have to do, you have to align yourself with the submission guidelines. So you have to align your paper with the submission guidelines. If you have done some revisions, be specific, state what changes you have done, and in the response letter, state where are the changes. So be specific to all individual comments. That will reduce editors and reviewers' time for review. So I have discussed a little bit of experiences I gained while managing South Asian Journal of Marketing. In addition to this, I'm working as a senior associate editor of the FIIB Business Review published by Sage. In addition to that, there are a few other journals also I'm managing right now. So I see these issues in all of these journals. So in order to get rid of such issues, what you have to do is you have to be focused. That is essential. So the second is strategy. We have so far discussed about the focus strategy. So at the beginning, I stated that what you have to do is you have to enhance both focus and differentiation together in order to enhance the intersection that represents the decisive competitive advantage. So in order to have a decisive competitive advantage, what you have to do here is basically You have to increase the focus. You have to focus on the manuscript. You have to focus on the journal. In addition to that, you have to focus on the audience as well. Audience. We discussed 3 audiences: readers, then we discuss editors, then we discuss about reviewers. So we have to satisfy all the audiences. So we have to satisfy their need. So be specific, be focused for that. So the second strategy, that is differentiate, how to differentiate. So I'll go through the chat box if there are questions. So I can ask, we can answer while on the session.
So we would save questions towards the end of the session. Would it be fine?
Okay, superb. Thanks, Dr. Libson. So we will proceed like that. The second strategy, that is how to differentiate. Here, I would like to repeat that both the focus and differentiation should be applied concurrently to achieve definitive or decisive competitive advantage for your manuscript. So the questions we do have in our mind right now is how to differentiate. How can we differentiate? So here I would like to highlight that it is possible to differentiate your manuscript from the other previous studies in order to create the originality or contribution of your research. What you have to do, you have to differentiate it from the other previous studies in order to create the originality and contribution of your study. For an example, here you can proceed with contextual differentiation, methodological differentiation, and also you can differentiate the findings from the previous studies. How you can proceed with the contextual differentiation? Contextual differentiation, basically, that is the context you are doing. You can highlight that if there are no such studies conducted in the same study, or if there are some issues, or if there are some methodological issues in the previous studies conducted in the same context, you can differentiate your study from those studies. Even you can differentiate the context. So so if your finding is different from the other studies conducted in the same context, what you have to do here is you have to basically differentiate your findings. In addition to that, you can proceed with the methodological innovation. Methodological innovation in the sense that having novel approach other than applying the same approaches applied by the other researchers. Here, what you can do, you can do a kind of analysis with regard to the methodologies applied in the previous studies. See what sort of methodologies they applied. 1 minute. See what sort of methodologies they applied, what sort of model they applied, what are the issues with regard to the models they applied. So think about that and come up with a novel methodology. So that is a methodological innovation. So in addition to that, you can differentiate your findings from the previous studies as well. So you have to find a way in order to differentiate your findings from the previous studies. So if the same thing is repeated, what sort of a value that will add to the research community? No point of repeating the same thing if it is not adding value, if it is not adding novelty, if it is not adding originality or contribution. You have to think about that novelty part. It is essential. Here, I would like to share one of my academic experiences. When I was doing my PhD at the University of Colombo, I was thinking about having a methodological innovation in my studies. So then what I did was, so can you mute yourself, please, everyone? So when I was doing my PhD at the University of Colombo, I was thinking about having a methodological innovation in my study. So my study is based on dividend policy. That is the well-researched area during the past 7 decades. There are thousands of articles published in the dividend policy. So I realized that by doing the same thing will not add value for me, and also will not add value for my PhD. So what I did was I analyzed the methodologies applied in the dividend policy studies and realized that 98% of the dividend policy studies are conducted using quantitative approaches, and approximately around 1.5 when it comes to mixed methods. So I found only one study. So so that I was thinking about what do you mean by dividend puzzle. That is consisted with two qualitatively and quantitatively bounded research questions. Why do companies pay dividends, and what are the determinants of dividend policy? Why, in the sense that is a qualitative question, what are the determinants, that is a quantitative question. So that I was thinking about different approach that might add value for this, but I found only one research article that is based on mixed method. So then what I did was I have gone through all other management discipline papers in order to see what are the innovative approaches we can apply. So there were no such, I was not able to found. So that what I did was I gone through medical, nursing, and other, other disciplines and search for the innovative methodologies. From nursing, I realized that there are other approaches we can apply, like triangulation approaches. So data triangulation, methodological triangulation, theoretical triangulation, then investigative triangulation, and multiple triangulation. So I realized there are 5 different triangulation approaches we can utilize for the finance discipline as well. So then what I did was I was thinking about whether I can apply one of these methodologies to my research approaches or research choices to my research area. So I realized that there is a possibility of applying both data triangulation and investigative triangulation, but at that time I was thinking that, I was an early career researcher, that is in 2014. So I had no publications, I had no conference papers on my dashboard. It was like 0 citations in Google Scholar Profile, 0 papers in Google Scholar Profile. So if I invent this, so what will be the acceptance from the West? So I was with that question. Even though I have a good methodology to be followed, so the acceptance will be low. So what I did was, in order to have that acceptance, so I was thinking about at that time having a collaboration with a top eminent professor in the finance field. So I realized who are the people who has written on dividend policy, and I gone through all the references and found out that, so Professor Kent Baker from the American University, he is the pioneer in dividend policy studies. So I have written to him in 2014 itself. So stating that I'm so and so. So I have a study, I am a PhD student. I need to do my study in this area. As the pioneer researcher in the field, I would like to have your advice on applying this approach as the research choice. We cannot see any other study conducted in the same phenomenon using this approach. I appreciate if you could collaborate with me for this. I have taken this from the nursing discipline, and I have done a nice email to him. So in a written mail, he accepted that. So we should collaborate for this, and we can do a good research utilizing data triangulation. So finally, ultimately, we completed our PhD in 2017 within 3 years exactly. So utilizing data triangulation approach. So that is the first attempt where data triangulation is utilized in the finance history. So that University of Michigan later, they have basically granted me a scholarship in order to learn mixed methodology and other triangulation approaches from one of the eminent research methodologists in the field, Professor John W. Creswell. So University of Michigan granted me one scholarship for that. That is awarded for the best 2 PhD students across the world. So considering about the methodological innovation in their study. So when you apply methodological innovation, so there will be a room for you in order to get collaborate and in order to publish in high quality journals. So later we publish our findings in managerial finance, qualitative research in financial markets, International Journal of Qualitative Methods. So IJQM, we have done a paper on highlighting the rationale for qualitative, quantitative, and mixed method studies for the finance discipline. In addition to that, highlighting the mixed method research designs for the finance researchers. So that was the first study in highlighting the same. So why I highlight this experience is that, so in order to motivate you on this Teachers' Day, so if you are doing a research using methodological innovation, there will be a room for upliftment of your life. So in addition to that, it is possible to gain the post-move advantage if you apply differentiation, focus, and innovation together in a single study. So it will basically pave the way towards achieving definitive competitive advantages for a top-tier publication. So as I stated earlier, using my academic experience, the differentiation I said that can be made through collaboration as well. So the question is with whom to collaborate. So as I did, the authors can collaborate with their top researchers, eminent researchers in the field, with their peer researchers in order to have a synergistic approach for a win-win. So here I would like to highlight that 1 + 1 is not equal to 2. Due to synergistic approach, the answer should be more than 2. So if you take individual pieces, so 1 and 1, that will be separated. But if you consider it as a synergistic way, so that is more than the 2 parts. That is more than the 2 parts, because through collaborations, you can improve your article based on different expertise. Some researchers are quantitative researchers, some are qualitative researchers, some are basically subject or methods expert, some are expert in their respective fields. So if you can collaborate for a common goal for a top tier publication, that will provide a definitive competitive advantage in achieving the same. So differentiation can be made through collaborations as well. So I have differentiated my paper and also myself from other peer researchers by having some collaborations. These days also we are having some international collaborations with UK researchers, US researchers, New Zealand, Australian researchers, and also most importantly, my Indian colleagues. So we are making collaborations on daily basis. So yesterday also we finalized one edited book with Emerald with my colleagues from India. So now we have discussed so far differentiation and focus. So when we were discussing about focus, so I said that you should focus on manuscript. You should focus on your manuscript. Other than that, you should focus on right candidate journal, and you should focus on audience as well. You have to determine audience interest as well. So let's discuss article structure to have a better understanding on do's and don'ts when writing an article. So as you can see here, a full article consisted of the title, author details, abstract and keywords, along with main text. In addition to that, if you consider about the main text or body, it consisted with introduction, literature, method, research, and discussion, conclusion, and implications. In addition to that, you can provide acknowledgement, references, and supplementary materials. So what you have to do? You have to focus on all of these areas. Focus strategy should be there in each and every topic here, which I stated here. Sorry. So now let's discuss about developing your title. That is really essential. Developing your title should be considered as an opportunity to gain readers' attention. Here you have to remember that readers are the reviewers and authors who will comment and cite your article. Hence, this is the first instance where you can gain a positive impression. So therefore, you should spend some valuable time in developing an eye-catching and meaningful title. That is really essential. That is really essential. So you have to keep title more concise and informative. So as reviewers, we basically check whether the title is specific and whether it is reflecting the content of the manuscript. So in addition to that, as editors, we hate titles that make no sense or fail represent subject matter adequately. So you have to here avoid the technical jargons, technical jargon that should be avoided. That should be avoided. In addition to that, abbreviations that should be avoided when developing your title. For an example, if it is on technology acceptance model in title, you should not provide TAM. We as authors would like to have larger reader base so that we have to put it into layman's language where everyone can understand what is all about. So here I would like to give you a tip. You have to discuss with your supervisors, with your colleagues, with your superiors, and make collaborations if they add value to your research. So based on their consent, based on their opinions, you can further develop your article to an eye-catching title. So the next thing we have to focus after the title, that is, you have to focus on the abstract. Abstract should be a kind of a standalone product. It is basically like advertisement of your final product. So as you already aware, industry people is spending millions in the advertisements. So you have to spend some valuable time here in developing your advertisement. It is essential. As a reviewer and as an editor, I have seen abstract with nonsense approaches. Sometimes authors simply cut and paste the conclusion, introduction, and so on in preparing the abstract. So then I was thinking about why our people cannot spend some valuable additional time on making it attractive and valuable. If industry people, if they are spending millions on their advertisement and spending years on their advertisement, why as authors you cannot spend a valuable time in developing your abstract? That is the question I do have in my mind. Since if the abstract is your advertisement, in order to sell your product, so the advertisement should be attractive. So you have to have the readers gain interest on it. So in order to have that, so you have to spend a valuable time, not simply cutting and pasting the conclusions, introductions, and so on your abstract, and have a meaningful abstract. So first impression that will be lasted for a long. So you have to think about that as well. In the abstract, you should basically briefly tell your prospective reader about what you have done and how it is done, and why is it important for the stakeholders. That is for the implication part. You should avoid here technical jargons and uncommon abbreviations when it comes to the abstract. You should have a better understanding on the content of the abstract. So most of the researchers tend to rationalize their research in the abstract itself. So they said that, so this is a very important area. So, so and so do a brief introduction in the abstract, and then they start that. So the objective of this study is to investigate this and this. So why that rationale is there? What you have to do is you have to cut that rationale and paste it in the abstract introduction. Abstract is not the place where you can, have the nonsense information.
inappropriate information. Abstract is the place where you can summarize everything. You start from the purpose. The purpose of this study is to investigate this and this. The methodology applied is this. Findings reveal that this. Then, based on the findings, so these are the implications to the stakeholders. These are the implications to the policymakers. These are the implications to the practitioners. If there is originality, so you can highlight originality as well. As per the best of the author's knowledge, this is the first study conducted in this context, investigating this phenomena. So if you are not basically sure about that, so don't use first, this is the first study and so on. So because reviewers and editors, they are the expert in the field, they will realize that this is not the first study and so on. So if you are not confident on it, don't use such words, excessive words. So that you have a question now, I think. What should we include in the abstract? You should include only the purpose, methodology in brief, key findings, implications of the study, and the originality of your study. Most of the time, the abstract, that is a standalone product. So most of the journals, they prefer unstructured abstract. Based on the publisher, so structure of the abstract, that is vary. So if you consider about Emerald, they prefer structured abstract. So if you consider about Sage, they prefer unstructured abstract. So you have to prepare the abstract in accordance with the submission guideline itself. So here you have to adhere to the selected journal submission guidelines, as I stated, adhere to the format of the abstract. If the journal prefers a structured abstract like Emerald, please proceed with that. We at the South Asian Journal of Marketing prefers a structured abstract, and unfortunately, 10 to 15% submissions are with unstructured format when they first submit to the journal. So that is not a good sign from the researchers we see. So as researchers, we should always adhere to the submission guidelines at the first place. So now the time is 4:21. So let me have 10 to 15 minutes max. So next, you have to focus on the keywords. Keywords are the labels of your manuscript. Keywords, you have to consider it as a label of your manuscript. That basically helps you to find your article from dozens of articles available in the databases. I'd like to ask you a simple question. Would you like to have more readability and more citations for your articles? Most of the time, people, authors, they ask this question from me. Sir, how can we have so many citations like these figures? So what is the strategy we can use? So if you need to have good citations, I mean good number of citations, good readability, what you have to do? You have to spend some valuable more time on your keywords, because based on the keywords only, the search engine maximization that will provide you the search engine results. To have an impact, you must improve the search engine optimization. Search engine results are basically generated based on the titles, abstract, and keywords of your article. So keywords, that is the main point. So most of the time we can see that in using keywords, you do not know what is the meaning of keyword. Keyword is a keyword. That is the most important 5 words or 4 words or 6 words in your article. So you have to spend some valuable time in developing the keywords. That is essential. That will pave the way towards more readability and more citations in the long run through good SEO results, search engine optimization results. Meaning that if you need to have a higher appearance, high readability, high downloads, and higher citations, you have to use right keywords, which is most relevant to your study. The keyword should be from abstract itself. Put yourself into researcher's shoes here. Avoid jargons, avoid jargons. So it is not all about single words. Even you can use phrases as keywords. Think internationally. For an example, if you need to put United States of America as a keyword, think what is widely used, whether it is USA or United States of America. If the acronym is widely used, USA widely used, use it as the keyword. So that is a tip from me. So the introduction, that is one of the major parts of your research. So this is a chance to convince your readers on importance of your work, basically. Here, what you have to describe is the research gaps, emphasizing on the research problem. So how you can derive the research problem and the research gaps, that is based on the literature review. So you have to do a literature review at the first place, whether in order to see research problem is addressed previously. If it is addressed, so what are the consequences? What are the implications? So what sort of issues are there in those research findings? You have to think about that. Think about that. And compare in the previous literature, you can identify several research gaps. So then you can basically derive the research problem based on the research gaps identified. So after deriving the research problem, what you have to do is you have to emphasize it on the introduction. What is that gap you are going to address? What is the research problem? What is the rationale of this study? Why is it important? So you have to emphasize it in the introduction itself. Even you can differentiate your study from the previous studies here. Here you have to discuss the rationale in comparison to recently conducted in studies in order to derive your originality. So as editors, we hate references irrelevant to your work or inappropriate judgments on your own achievements. So now I would like to discuss some pitfalls of the introduction. So most of the articles we received in our journals are lengthy introductions, sometimes 4 to 5 pages. I request you to reduce it to 1 or 1.5 pages maximum with 1.5 line spacing, 1.5 inches line spacing. So in addition to that, we can see the introduction with too many subheadings, such as problem statement, objectives, then research questions, significance of the study, limitations, and so on. Introduction, that is a one heading. There are no subheadings, no subheading. In thesis and dissertations, you can see subheadings like research questions, research objectives, then significance of the study, limitations, and so on, chapterization. Everything is there in a thesis or dissertation. But in a manuscript, we can see only one heading, that is introduction. That is introduction. You have to write the introduction in paragraphs, like paragraphs. So here, most of the articles, as I stated, sometimes 4 to 5 pages we received. I request you to reduce it to 1.5 pages. So in addition to that, you can see the introduction with too many subheadings, as I stated earlier. So it seems that most of the researchers, they tend to cut and paste from their original theses or dissertations. So I request you all to not to use too many words and too many subheadings in the introduction. So you can have only one heading, that is introduction. I don't encourage subheadings if there are no special cases. Introduction is not a history lesson. You have to keep readers' interest from the beginning of your research. It is not a history lesson. So another pitfall of the introduction is that some researchers tend to have a mixed bag of introduction with results, discussion, and conclusion thrown in for good measure. So they thrown in these for good measure. But Introduction is not the place where you can put your findings and so on. Introduction is the introduction. You have to keep sections separate to ensure the manuscript follows logically from one section to the other. In most of the articles we review, we can see that it uses the used car salesman field. So you are doing the same thing what other researchers do, but what you are doing is you are trying to cut and polish in order to show that your article has an original look. So that is the used car salesman field. To showcase that, some researchers sometimes you tend to use excessive words such as novel, first time, as I stated earlier, excessive words, first ever in this context, and so on. But remember that editors and reviewers are the experts in the field. If they go to know that your claim is not original, if one claim is not correct, that will be the end of your story. So hence, be genuine, be ethical, claim only what you can claim. That is essential. So that is about the introduction. So now I would like to go ahead with the method section. So let's see the time now, 4:30. So we'll have additional 10 to 15 minutes maximum. So the methodology section, that should capture a brief methodology on what and how did you conduct your research. So you can elaborate the research process here. The details should be on summary form, but not the reader should be able to reproduce your research employing the same approach. That is the most important one. This is not a correct place in order to enlighten on broader terms such as research philosophies like ontology, epistemology, and so on. But you have to highlight on the method you have followed, the sample size and techniques, sampling design, research design, data collection procedure, how did you collect your data, how did you overcome if biases, if there are. So if you have a methodological innovation in your study here, you can elaborate more about emphasizing what is why is it appropriate, what did you do, and so on. So you have to remember that reviewers criticize incomplete and incorrect methods, so that you have to have a support from a methodological expert if you need any clarification. So researchers, sometimes they are not, statisticians, they are not the statistical experts. What you can do is you can hire that knowledge. Simple as that. So the next section, that is the results. So when this is basically based on one of our papers published in Journal of Public Affairs, published by Willie. So his results. So without put in the output as it is, you can see that we have summarized all the tests here and explain it. Simple as that. What you have to do is you have to present your results in a summary form. Most of the time we can see that the statistical output has been incorporated as it is in the results section. It is one of the major pitfalls we see in the results section. So as you can see in the screen, here we have proceeded only with the results, which we can explain in a meaningful manner. So if we cannot explain, other things, so we will not put, we should not put. So errors and all, standard errors and all, if you are not going to explain it, so what is the purpose of having it here? So remove it. So put only the interpretable or meaningful results. Otherwise, you have to skip from those output. For instance, if there are no meaning in descriptive statistics, what you have to do is you have to basically remove the same. Don't put descriptive statistics if there is no meaning. Accordingly, you have to present only the representative results here. This paper, we basically we have taken in order to enlighten on the need. So another important point is that here you should not hide results with the purpose of saving it for another paper. By doing so, you will lose evidence to support your conclusion, and it will hinder the value and contribution of your study. Most of the researchers, the master and PhD researchers, they tend to keep some results for future research article. So don't do that. So have one good paper, quality paper,
which will provide a good contribution to the research community. So when it comes to the discussion, so discussion in the sense that it is basically devoted to explain what the results mean. So what do you mean by results? That is the discussion. This is the one of the most important section of your research. Here you have a chance to sell your data. So I experienced that most of the articles are being rejected since the discussion is really weak. So here you have to make the discussion only corresponding to the results which you have obtained. Most of the time we can see that there are some claims that is not based on the, results of your study. So in order to, increase the rigor, so you tend to, tell something different that will add value to your research. That is not ethical. That is not ethical. So here you have to make the discussion only corresponding to the results which you have obtained. But you should not reiterate the same. In addition to that, you have to compare your findings from the previous studies. If there are disagreements, please do not ignore the results. Ignore those studies. What you have to do is you have to confront it and convince the reader that you are correct or better, or explain the difference and why it is. So that should be the way forward. Be straightforward. If there is a difference, so accept that this different and explain it. So that will help you to derive some form of originality of your research as well. So the last part, that is basically summary and conclusion. So for this conclusion, so here you can see that. So in the conclusion, we have not repeated the introduction. So or the discussion or the results section. So conclusion is a different thing, summary and conclusion, and also if there are implications, you can highlight in this section. So in the conclusion, I would like to highlight that this is not a place to repeat the same thing, and you have to conclude your findings in a meaningful manner. So here you have to tell how your work advances the field from the present state of knowledge. So as you can see on the PPT, so we published this article in Qualitative Research in Financial Markets. Here we conclude that what are the findings of the secondary data results and what are the findings of the primary data results, and ultimately conclude the comprehension with the comprehension. So then we discuss the economic significance of our study as well. Here we discuss economic significance. In addition to that, we provided some implications to the practitioners and policymakers. So as I stated, here you should not repeat the abstract. It is just summary and conclusion, including implications. So you can include future directions as well. It is required to have a clear scientific justification for your work and indicate possible applications and extensions. In addition to that, you have to emphasize on the implication and to the practitioners, society, or to the policymakers. Here you can highlight value of your research to the other stakeholders, which is complementary. I advise you to use this space in order to emphasize the same. So in addition to that, you should also suggest future recommendations or future experiments, or point out those are underway. So that is all about the conclusion section. So when it comes to the references, so I would like to highlight that as editors, so we see most of the mistakes in the reference list than any other part of the manuscript. So it is one of the most annoying problems and causes great headache among the editors. So here we can see 4 major problems in our references, in your references. These 4 major problems are, first, we can see authors include full references which are not included as in-text citations in the body of text. So you have additional references which is not included in the body as in-text citations. So you do have additional full references. So meaning that you have copied the references from a thesis or dissertation and put is
as it is. So after writing the article, please reconcile the references. You should have only the full references which you have cited on the body. Additional references should not be there. The reason is that the first thing as editors we see is the reference list. We see whether reference list is in line with our referencing style, whether there are additional references, whether there are missing references, whether there are incomplete references. We see that. So second, authors, they miss full references of some of the in-text citations, other way around. You do have in-text citations, but full reference list is missing. Full references are missing, meaning that you are adding some more important literature at a later stage, and you do not remember to incorporate such full references at the end. So that is another serious problem we see. The third, authors submit papers with incomplete references. The third problem is, so you're submitting with incomplete references. If it is a journal, so you should know, so all the author names with their initials, surnames with their initials. So along with the year, then topic or title of the manuscript, then journal name, that should be there, then volume number, issue number, that should be there, either in Harvard or APA. So then you have to mention the page range, 13 to 27, likewise. So if it is a journal, this information should be there. Don't proceed with incomplete references. Most of the time we received articles from the authors with incomplete references. That is another pitfall of references. So fourth, you are not adhering to the particular referencing style preferred by the journal. So we at Emerald, we prefer Harvard. So most of the time, Sage, they prefer APA, 7th edition. So that you have to adhere, you have to change your, entire thing in accordance with the referencing style. That's why I stated that before beginning beginning of the article, what you have to do is you have to select the suitable journal. That is essential. Then you can prepare your article in accordance with that journal guidelines. So that will reduce the time required in order to do a revision in a later stage. So in addition to that, you have to avoid excessive self-citations in your article, so that you have to get rid of these mistakes if you really want to publish in a top-tier journal. So last part, that is the cover letter. So yeah, there. So cover letter. So cover letter, I would like to talk about a cover letter as well, because we have to view this as a job application letter. This is the place where you can sell your work. So as you know, in a job application letter, we prepare a nice cover letter, no? Similar to that. So when you are submitting to a journal, draft a cover letter, nice cover letter. Here you have to highlight why did you submit this manuscript to this journal, mentioning that what would make your manuscript special to the journal. In addition to that, you can mention special requirements. For an example, if you do not wish to your manuscript to be reviewed by certain reviewers, you can mention, and any conflict of interest, you can mention it in the cover letter. Conflict of interest in the sense that, assume that I'm working as an associate editor in South Asian Journal of Business Studies. So if I'm submitting a article, so what you have to do, you have to clearly mention the editor that, so I'm so and so, he's all he know, but he or she know about me, but you have to mention that, so I do have a conflict of interest since I'm working as a associate editor or whatever the position. So there is a conflict of interest. Or assume that you are working at a publisher. So say Emerald. So I'm working at Emerald, full-time worker. And if I'm submitting an article to Emerald Journal, so what you have to do, you have to mention. So in addition to that, Assume that my brother is submitting an article to my journal. I'm the editor-in-chief. So brother, he should state the conflict of interest he is having. The editor-in-chief is my brother. You should not, conduct the entire reviewing process under his purview. So better to appoint a new editor for this. So be genuine, be genuine. So finally, here, here I would like to emphasize one thing, another thing. You have to understand that the most editors will not reject a manuscript only based on the cover letter as well. So cover letter, but a good cover letter may accelerate the editorial process of your paper. May accelerate, but editors will not reject the paper based on the cover letter. Because we cannot, judge the book by its cover. No? So there is an argument like that. No? So finally, I would like to advise you not to summarize your manuscript or repeat the abstract in the cover letter. So in this session, we have discussed basically winning formula for a top tier publication, how to enhance the article acceptance rate, and how to publish in a good journal or reputed journal using a formula that is basically based on Porter's generic strategies, which we have discussed, focus and differentiation. In the meantime, I discussed the structure of the manuscript as well in order to cover up the focus strategy. So finally, as the concluding remark, I would like to highlight that by applying these strategies, you can publish in a top tier journal. I have not covered everything due to the time limitation, but I hope you learn something new out of this session. So wish you all the best. And I would like to thank all the, organizing committee members, including Dr. Libison. So for your, kind invitation for me in order to deliver this session on your most auspicious occasion, that is on the Teachers' Day in India. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, I can proceed now. So I'll go through the chat box.
Thank you, sir. We would take some questions. We are running short of time anyway, but we would take some questions.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for giving us valuable insights regarding this topic. Next, we have the question and answer session. The participants can ask questions regarding this topic if they have any.
So shall I go through the questions and answer?
Hello, sir. It is Muhammad Syed from MES College in Nedangandam.
Yes.
Sir, there is nothing to ask more. You covered almost all areas. What question remained unsaid? You unveiled everything. We have nothing to ask you. Very good, sir. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Good evening, sir. I am Ramya Shri, and I'm pursuing my PhD in zoology, and I'm from India, Tamil Nadu. So actually, it is an eye-opening session for me, sir. Literally, actually, I was searching for a good webinar. Actually, thank you for the organizing secretaries for organizing such an interesting and informative session on how to publish an article or prepare a manuscript and how to publish it in high-rated journals. And definitely, sir, thank you for giving such an eye-opening session, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your wonderful words and encouraging words. So valuable feedback. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. And happy Teachers' Day, sir.
You too.
Is there anyone who would like to interact with the resource person or to
Hello.
raise? Yeah, please, sir.
First of all, such a wonderful and non-boring means we all are the profession teacher. We know that a lot of time we get bored from this type of session really. These are whatever I'm tying is really true. But in this session, I not get bored. I listen properly whole thing, each and everything, whatever. And this new thing, I find that writing a cover letter is also important, which I really ignore.
That's true.
Thank you. So someone is asking for the PPT. So Doctor, I will share the PPT with you so you can share.
Sure, sir.
Okay,
sure.
sir. Sir, hello.
Yes.
Please, please.
Sir, I'm Nitin. I have a small doubt only. I have seen some articles with keywords and JEL classifications together, and some articles with a JEL classification only. Sir, is there any standard about this Journal of Economic Literature codes to use in our articles?
So I'm not clear about your question. Can you repeat it?
So about keyword, while we inserting keywords and JEL classification codes.
Right.
So I have seen in some articles, we use both keywords and JEL codes together.
Yes.
But in some other articles, I have seen only JEL codes only.
Yes.
So these articles
this is basically based on, journals preference. So some journals, they proceed only with JEL. Some journals, they prefer both keywords and JEL. So based on JEL classification, we can basically put it under that common criteria. So, but I still believe that keywords are important because it is the one considered when we proceed with the search engine optimization, not the JEL classification.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
A very good evening, sir. My name is J.S. Bhagwati, and I have a doubt for you. Sir, usually the papers which are published in most of the journals, these are all about methodological papers, more of analytical papers. So can you just brief about how to publish review papers? Because we do not know whether review papers will be accepted in journals. So is there any...
Review papers are accepted in journals, basically. So, but as editors, we basically keen on the methodological approach you follow in a review paper. So if it consider about a conceptual review, so if you are doing a conceptual paper, there should be a proper methodology, proper research process applied in that study. For an example, you can proceed with bibliometric analysis, you can proceed with systematic literature review, utilizing Prisma, PICO approaches, and so on. So please focus on the methodology in a review paper. So that is my kind request with regard to the review papers. So most of the time editors will reject review or concept papers based on the poor methodology. That is my experience, own experience. We also tend to reject conceptual papers based on poor methodology. But if you are certain that you have followed the appropriate methodology, so please focus on that, highlight what process you followed. For an example, if you are doing a systematic literature review approach, so emphasize on what are the keywords, what are the databases you search, so how many papers you have initially selected, so what was the inclusion and exclusion criteria, so that you can bring down the sample to the level. So then you can discuss, we have taken this sample, so based on, thousands articles. So then you can do a critical evaluation with regard to these articles and come up with a kind of a research gap at the end of the review article. Otherwise, there is no point of doing a review. No. So you should emphasize something new. So in a review paper, what you can easily emphasize is that is research gap. So you can enlighten on some research areas, future areas. So you can uncover some areas as well. So my suggestion is to focus on the methodology and also the discussion, specifically in the review paper. So I hope I answered your question. or
Yes,
do you
sir.
need to?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You've answered it because I was on the notion that review papers are accepted based on the number of references. So that's why I wanted to clear that.
No. That is not based on the number of references, but you have to think about including good research papers in your article. I mean, reputed papers. For an example, if you consider, if you are doing a review, let's say, investor sentiment in finance. So what you have to do is you have to cite the top journals, not poor graded journals. So then your article will also fit into that circle. Understand?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So not, I mean, if you are including, I mean, papers which is taken from Google Scholar and so on, from predatory journals and so on, that will not add value to your research. Cite the Journal of Finance, cite Managerial Finance, cite the Journal of Corporate Finance. Likewise.
Okay, sir.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for clearing my doubts, sir. It was indeed a very wonderful session. It was a wonderful evening with you. Thank you, sir.
Thanks. Have a good day.
Any other questions?
So it has been 2 hours now. So I don't think we need to procrastinate it again.
So my email is there. So if you have any questions, you can write to me here, jayantha@mgt.sub.ac.lk. So you can write to me if you have any further questions.
Sure, sir. So we are deeply grateful for your time. And I'm sure our participants must have immensely benefited out of your session. And I look forward such sessions in the future as well from you whenever you get time. Our research scholars would definitely contact you, and we will have such sessions in the future as well. And as you told, we will explore the possibilities for academic collaborations. So thanks a lot, thanks a ton. And I just can't believe your enthusiasm and energy for the last 2 hours without losing energy you were presenting. That was very much visible on screen. So thank you so much for your time. And I would request Kirtana to proceed. Please stay, sir.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Yeah,
Finally, I invite Mr. Aslam to deliver the vote of thanks for the session.
Yeah, before the vote of thanks, I would just like to add to what Dr. Libson said. Though I couldn't listen the lecture in full, I heard it from here and there, and I could understand that you have covered almost all the topics that was needed in such a talk. In fact, I myself had a doubt about these keywords, and you explained it so clearly. What is the purpose of keyword and how to select a keyword? I think this will go down our repository as a reference for future researchers, and the dedication and passion with which you spoke was really inspiring. So thank you so much for your time and effort.
You're welcome, sir.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, please.
Yeah, I think we can move to the next session. I invite Mr. Aslam PS to deliver the vote of thanks for the session.
Hello. First of all, wish you all a very joyous day ahead. I'm indeed honored to propose the vote of thanks for today's international webinar titled How to Improve Acceptance Rate and Publish in High Quality Journals, organized by the Research and PG Department of Commerce, Christ College and the Department of Commerce, St. Aloysius College, Thrissur. Bowing before the supreme power before any, I extend our greatest gratitude to the apt resource person for the day, Professor Dr. Dewasiri and Jayantha, Faculty of Management Studies, Sabaragamuwa University, Sri Lanka, and brand ambassador of Emerald Publishing in South Asia region, who had expanded his quality time being with us to enrich our knowledge on publications. Thank you so much, sir. Next, I thank the principals of the host institutions Reverend Dr. Julie Andrews CMI, Principal Christ College, and Dr. Chaco Jospi, Principal St. Aloysius College, Thrissur, for providing us a platform to conduct this international webinar session. I take this opportunity to thank Dr. Joshina Jose, HOD of Commerce, Christ College, and Ms. Regida AG, HOD of Commerce, St. Aloysius College, Thrissur, for their endless support and help. Thank you so much, both of you. With much respect, I thank the program convener of the day, Dr. Arun Balakrishnan, and Dr. Libison KB, joint program convener, for their efforts in making this session a grand success. I would like to extend the heartfelt gratitude to the organizing committee members, research supervisors, and participants of today's for supporting and taking part in this program. Your participation is indeed a fuel for our future endeavors. Thanking all our well-wishers in this moment and taking this opportunity to thank each and everyone in a single word. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now, participants, please turn on your video for a while.
Aslam, bring the gallery view so that we would be able to take a video. Oh, sorry, the photo. Professor, can you remove your sharing so that? Aslam, remove the spotlight so that we would all come together.
Spotlight.
I think you can remove the pin, no?
Yeah, I don't have the privilege. Aslam or Arundhati, please.
Sir, I have taken the screenshot.
In the gallery, we may have a gallery view so that. Did you get the gallery view screenshot? You have. Okay. Good.
I got it.
Yeah, fine. Fine. So we would formally end here then.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Happy
Catch you, Professor.
Okay, one more thing, please.
Yeah.
All the participants, please fill the Google form which we have provided in the chat box and can collect their concerned e-certificates for participation. Okay, once again, thank you everyone. Thank you, sir, for your valuable presence, and everyone can leave now.
Have a great day.
Great day, sir.